Hey guys, and welcome back to Boxmining. Today we have an especially interesting video for all of you guys who are interested in artificial intelligence. We have researcher Ben Goertzel, and he's been researching AI for a long time, especially he's a top pioneer in the general artificial intelligence space. He's also the CEO and co-founder of SingularityNET, and he's also creating the Singularity DAO as well. So Ben, welcome to the channel.
Hey, happy to be here.
So I guess just to start off with the first question, we've been talking about blockchain for a while, and obviously AI gets thrown in there from time to time. But sometimes I feel like a lot of people don't understand why we need AI and blockchain. What's the kind of advantage here? Can you just tell me kind of your approach, why you came to the space, your story about this?
Yeah, my background is more AI than blockchain. So I have a PhD in math from the 1980s, but even before I did that math degree, my passion in life has above all been to create machines that can really think, and machines ultimately that can think as well as or better than people, and are compassionate, benevolent machines that will help people, right? And help people go like even beyond humanity as we know it. So very science fictional visions are what has
So you're creating Skynet.
well, we're creating a benevolent analog
Benevolent
of
Skynet.
of, of Skynet without like naked bodybuilders traveling backwards in time and wreaking havoc, right? But yeah, so how does that connect with blockchain? Of course, there's two directions: how AI can help blockchain and how blockchain can help AI. And how I got into the AI blockchain connection was really by looking at how blockchain can help AI, which is by giving it the possibility of decentralized control. I mean, I think fundamentally, if you look at AI as ultimately not just consisting of specific tools for solving specific problems, but consisting of a general purpose intelligence fabric, right? Then you would like that not to be controlled by a particular government agency or particular large corporation or billionaire or something. You would like AI to be controlled democratically in a participatory, like decentralized manner. And so how do you do that? Well, blockchain lets you create decentralized democratic control in a decentralized network with no one owner and no central point of failure, right? So
Mm.
that's how I got into it. I started trying to create decentralized AI control systems based on strong encryption and based on distributed processing in the late 90s, before blockchain as such existed. But then as blockchain technologies matured, as Ethereum rolled out smart contracts, I'm like, well, hold on, we now actually have the tools we can use to make decentralized AI systems. And once you get into it, you then see ways that AI can help with blockchain as well. I mean, in particular, I mean, you have endless problems with security and fraud in
Mm.
blockchain networks, and AI-based reputation systems, AI for cybersecurity can help hugely. So I think there's a feedback in both directions. And now, of course, we're using AI also on the crypto finance side with Singularity DAO that we'll talk about in a few minutes.
Got it. So talking about AI, I mean AI has been a big jargon word, right? So I think this is my it's this is something that holds me back because everything is AI nowadays, right? Like you got Xiaomi coming up with AI camera. Oh my god, like it's a regular camera, but it's got some AI effects on it. But how do you distinguish, say, general intelligence AI and versus just simple like machine
Yeah, I mean
learning?
the term
Mhm.
the term AI is a big umbrella, and I think that's all right. I mean, like the term life is a big umbrella covering everything from little microorganisms up to human beings, right? And weird stuff like superorganisms of ant and bee colonies, right? So
Mhm.
intelligence is also a big umbrella, and it includes what I'd call narrow AIs that do highly specific things within a context that's set up by their user. And in future, hopefully not that too distant a future, it will include AGIs, general artificial intelligences, that can act in a way that's not directly conditioned by their programming or their training, but can be creative and imaginative and do fundamentally novel things with some understanding of themselves and their relation to their context. And ultimately, when you have an AGI that can do computer programming and AI research itself, it will bootstrap itself into a super intelligence, which is the end game. And we would like that to happen within a democratic and decentralized control framework, rather than toward the narrow aims of some particular group.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the difference, right? So for the audiences watching here, I think that there's a big distinction because obviously right now there's a lot of like say neural processing engines and stuff that like Apple toots around, but that's not general intelligence, right? General intelligence would be like it's self-aware almost. So
Yeah, I mean that there's a question about the relation between narrow AIs and AGIs, right? And some people think you can just make your narrow AIs get more and more and more general and stronger until they become AGIs. You might also think you could take a bunch of different narrow AIs doing different but related things and network them together into a sort of super system which manifests AGI, much as your visual cortex isn't an AGI, your motor cortex isn't an AGI, your temporal lobe isn't an AGI, but your brain is a general intelligence, right? So, I mean, I think SingularityNET, which is a blockchain-based platform I launched with some others in 2017. This is a decentralized protocol for connecting a whole bunch of different AI agents in a coordinated network. And you can use this in a number of ways. I mean, you can use this, it's an AI marketplace. People can buy and sell their AI wares on an API marketplace. You can use it to connect together different AI agents written by different people to make narrow AI services doing particular things, like AI for DeFi or AI for controlling robots. Or you could try to get the SingularityNET to be a fabric in which different AI agents combine to form a general intelligence, right? It's sort of a primordial soup of AI agents that you could try to coax a lot of things to emerge out of.
So how close are we? SingularityNet is deployed. So right now it's a marketplace. Are we close to general AI, or what's the current status of that?
It's hard to say. I mean, I would like to hope we're close, and we're pushing as hard as we can. If you look in the recent history of AI, what you see is there's been progress in bursts lasting a few years in particular areas. Like between 2014 and 17, computer vision just went crazy, right? Like in 2014, computer vision was quite primitive. By 2017 or so, like face recognition worked, action recognition worked. You had like cameras on the street corner in Shenzhen that recognize if you're jaywalking and automatically send you a ticket, right? Because they recognize your face. And natural language processing had a similar incredible burst of progress in a few years, starting from BERT, the BERT model from Google, Transformer Neural Networks in 2018, then GPT-3. In 2016, you did not have software programs that could generate text that looks like it was written by a human. It didn't work. And now in a few years, you had that breakthrough. So I think we're going to have a breakthrough to AGI in a similar nature. There's going to be a few years of progress where there's going to be bang, 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 one after another result on general intelligence, better and better. Now, will that start in 2022 or 2025? Isn't obvious. I don't think it's going to be 2040 though. I think we're pretty close. Like in the scale of human history, we're right there, right? But of course, I'm trying to make it happen within the next few years rather than 10 or 15 years from now. And I think there's distinctions between AGI and narrow AI. There's also a lot of commonalities. So I mean, some of the same AI tools we're using, say in our Awakening Health project, which is out of Hong Kong, making humanoid robots to serve in elder care, or in our SingularityDAO decentralized finance project, which is using AI to help with trading of baskets of low liquidity or mid liquidity altcoins. Like the AI that's used in these specific projects, it's a lot of the same algorithms that I think you need for AGI, but they're arranged in different ways, and they're taught in different ways and applied in different ways. So on the one hand, AGI and narrow AI are not the same. On the other hand, there's a lot of the same software and algorithms and representations that overlaps between the two. So, which is good, because the world is spending a lot more resources into narrow AI for specific applications yielding value right now than into AGI research. So that to the extent we can take stuff being done for narrow AI, organize it differently, and make progress toward AGI, that way we can make faster progress.
Got it. So I want to move a little bit into this application, right? So you're talking about Singularity DAO, which is kind of moving this, applying AI to trading low basket of coins, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that, like how that works and what's the vision for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to make the connection with general intelligence, I'd say one of the shortcomings of AI in financial prediction and financial risk management generally is the difficulty narrow AI has in dealing with what are called regime changes in the financial market. So typically a trading system or a prediction methodology will work very well for a while and make people a bunch of money until it doesn't work anymore. Why? Well, they call it a regime change, right? It could be a change in financial regulations in the key jurisdiction. It could be some other traders introduced a new kind of algorithm or a new trading approach. Like something in the composition of the market changes, then the algorithms that worked before don't work anymore.
Correct.
And it's very hard to have automated algorithms deal well with regime changes. Now in the crypto markets, it's always a regime change, right? Like every few months, the market composition is changing radically, or some key regulation is changing. Like the past statistics doesn't look like the next statistics. I mean, there's some commonality, like on the whole, it goes up, and there's a lot of volatility, but there's constant changes in the nature of the market, which makes it a fascinating challenge from an AI point of view, right? It means that you need algorithms that can generalize a fair bit beyond their past experience, because in crypto, the past experience is never the same as the near future is going to be, right? And so that's what got me interested in what can we do to apply some of our proto AGI algorithms in the crypto world. But then when I thought about, what's the most interesting direction to go in there, I mean, you could do Bitcoin price prediction and Bitcoin futures and so on, and we're doing some of that because we want to use that as a hedge against other things we're doing. But it seemed to me like it's more interesting to do something with altcoins representing exciting startup projects, because as someone who has founded a bunch of tech startups in my life, some successful, some less so, I don't like the whole venture capital ecosystem, which is just basically you're getting young kids forming companies, and then those companies are bought by a few tech behemoths. So the whole VC startup pipeline is like a recruiting pipeline for a few big companies, right? It seems like utility tokens and the altcoin ecosystem should be an alternative to the VC and corporate acquisition pipeline for doing tech startups. But it's hard because the crypto markets are so screwy and complicated. And after you launch your token, it's at the whim of a bunch of speculators on public markets, and it's often hard to grow a tech project that way. So I thought if you could use AI to create a more mature financial ecosystem for low to mid liquidity altcoins, I mean, in essence, what you're doing is you're creating a better situation for startup tech projects that have launched their utility tokens to then grow their projects after launch. And that's really how SingularityDAO came about. Like I saw we could use proto AGI technology to better deal with the regime changes that you see in the crypto markets, and you could do with standard statistical and machine learning tools. Then I saw if you could do something in DeFi that would help create more liquidity and derivatives and more sophisticated markets for smaller altcoins, you'd create a better ecosystem for startup decentralized tech projects, right? So then what we're doing, we're taking baskets of low to mid liquidity altcoins, and we're then creating an ecosystem where there's trading and prediction of these using sophisticated AI algorithms. And I think this this can really be quite transformative in the crypto market. So I'm quite excited about it.
Got it. I think that's really interesting because I mean, I think the first question I wanted to talk about and ask, and which you directly answered, was what's the difference between, say, an AI and an algorithm? Because algorithm trading has been around for a long time. You know, all the event market makers and everyone use them, right? So you answered that because of the regime change. But something that's quite interesting also is in blockchain right now, regime changes happen all the time, and there's multiple
Yeah.
blockchains and there's multiple AMMs. Like we saw like Uniswap just come up out of the blue, right? If you're talking about DeFi, you know, Uniswap came and had, you know, billions of dollars worth of liquidity locked and trade volume in a space of a year. So how would an AI deal with something like that? Like these new products are launching that's on, you know, the platform. You know, how do you even program something to be like, oh, to deal with these new systems coming in, because DeFi moves like every week, right? That's how
I mean,
fast it moves.
it's kind of the same way that a human trader does, though. I mean, a human trader who never saw Uniswap before, they could still make money by arbitraging between Uniswap and Binance or something, right? I mean,
Hmm.
the basic concepts are the basic trades are the same. The basic concepts are the same. So this comes down to what's called transfer learning in the AI field. Like, can you transfer knowledge from one domain to a slightly related domain, right? Like for me, after I learned to drive a motorcycle, I could transfer some of that knowledge to let me drive a car or a truck. Like I wasn't
Right.
starting from scratch.
Right.
But
But
to an
how close are we to
AI,
that for AI right now at this current point though? Like how close are we to achieving transfer knowledge? Like, you know.
there's a
Mhm,
whole academic literature on transfer learning. So I mean,
mhm,
it's a fairly mature field, and I was doing that in the financial markets. I guess I'm almost a decade ago, where it's like if you train a system on, say, U.S. stocks, like constituents of the S&P 500, like, can you get it to do something on the Chinese A shares or something,
mhm,
and transfer some of the knowledge from U.S. stocks onto Chinese
mhm,
stocks? And so that's been around in traditional finance for a while. I mean, crypto has advantages and disadvantages, right? I mean, from a trading view, like your algorithm can see the whole order book, and that's interesting because you can't do that in most in traditional markets. On the other hand, there's, insane volatility and what you call not non-stationarity. Like the
mhm.
statistics are constantly changing. But I'd say transfer learning 20 years ago, there was almost nothing on it, right? But the last 5-10 years, there's a lot of academic stuff on transfer learning. But then, and there's what are called neural symbolic methods that we've pioneered in my OpenCog project and in SingularityNET, where you use neural nets to recognize patterns. Then you use like symbolic logic to get a more abstract representation of the patterns, and the logical version of a pattern seen in the market can often transfer better to a different situation. So I mean, you can do a lot of interesting things, and I think one of the cool things with the Singularity DAO setup is we have our own AI, but we're creating an ecosystem that will incentivize other AI developers to contribute, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
you have these sets, these baskets of altcoins, which are called Dynasets, because they're dynamically weighted sets, right? But then, and you can in a non-custodial way. I mean, you can acquire those Dynasets, and then they're adaptively reweighted by AI algorithms. You can
Oh, wow.
also you can also stake these Dynasets in a liquidity pool. There's a yield farming aspect. You get some reward for staking, but then the staked Dynasets can be borrowed by other AI algorithms that can then do arbitrage and prediction, different kinds of trading on them. And so we want to evolve an ecosystem of, third-party algorithms that are borrowing the staked Dynasets and doing their own financial prediction and hedging on the underlying altcoins. And in this way, you're creating a lot more liquidity for the underlying altcoins, but you're also getting a lot of collective intelligence into the ecosystem from all the different people's
Mhm.
algorithms working together. And then the SingularityNET platform is then sort of the infrastructure in which these different AI algorithms are implemented and can operate and cooperate. So I mean, it's a bit complicated. On the other hand, the traditional finance world has had all sorts of insane
Yeah.
complexity with high frequency trading and credit
Yep.
default swaps and all this. So really, DeFi seems weird, but actually, DeFi is very far from catching up with traditional finance in terms of the perverse complexity of the instruments and dynamics in play.
Interesting. So how's the development for everything? Is this what's being built so far and what's on the pipeline?
Yeah, so SingularityNET is fairly mature. I mean, it's in
Hmm.
beta, but the platform has worked for a long time. There's a bunch of AI agents on it. In terms of Singularity DAO, we have a development team that's been working hard on this, and we're in terms of the project that we're generating the SingDAO governance tokens on May 6th, and we're doing IDOs on May 10th on pools and launch pools. So
Hmm.
we're doing the tokenomics stuff, and we're marketing this heavily to our SingularityNET AGI token holding community because they've already gotten interest because SingularityNET platform will be used for the AI underlying SingDAO. So we're not too long after that before we launch the actual SingularityDAO platform, and then I'm thinking that can grow quite rapidly. I mean, it's a good time for the crypto markets in general, obviously. So I think it's a great time to be launching
Yep.
something like this. And yeah, I think finance was the second real application of AI in the mainstream non-crypto world. Like the first was like military and espionage. The second was Wall Street, and then the advertising companies got a hold of it, right? So I think we can see the same thing in the decentralized AI space. I mean, you don't have military there. Maybe that DeFi is the first place that decentralized AI gets really massive traction, and then after that, you'll see it roll out in more and more different verticals.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So if people want to learn a little bit more about Singularity Net and Singularity DAO, what's the best way to learn more?
Yeah, so there's the SingularityNet website, singularitynet.io. There's a SingularityDAO website as well, and plenty of information there. You can find out there how to get to
Yep. I'll put
Telegram
them into the
groups
links
and
down below.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, Twitter and so forth. So no shortage of information, and yeah, we're very interested to to have folks participate in every possible way to join the governance of the network with governance tokens. If you're an AI developer, join and implement your own AI algorithms and set them to work on our liquidity pools. And there's a lot of ways to participate, and it's going to be an awesome year.
Got it. Awesome. So I hope you guys are super excited for this. And if you guys want to find out more, I'll put the links down below. I definitely want to thank Ben for coming in and talking to us a lot, sharing his passion, and also giving us a little bit of an insight of how AI can be applied to this whole space in general. I definitely feel it's cool that it can be applied into financial systems, especially with general AI. So I'm super excited for this. Yeah. Thank you, Ben, for coming.
All right, thanks for having me.